Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Priscilla,
And I'm Jess.
and we're going to be talking about the lovely show that Kathryn Hahn, aka Miss Agatha, all along, did on Disney Plus called Tiny Beautiful Things. But first things first, make sure you stay tuned to the feed. We've got plenty of cool things still going on. We've obviously got Succession still happening. We still got The Mandalorian and Yellow Jackets and other fun stuff. So please keep locked into the feed for that. First things first, Jess, how are you doing? How are you feeling on this fine evening?
I'm fine. It's just been like a long week. So it's just a nice way to end the week watching that. And yeah, just been a busy one. So I'm just going to get some rest. So that's what I'm
Do you know
looking
what, it's
forward to.
true.
How has your week been, Priscilla?
It's been a long week. I'm very tired. My Red Bull that I drank this morning has actually now I'm crashed now.
Why are you drinking Red Bull?
I make the error every single time of drinking Red Bull, thinking I'm gonna be hyped. Then I'm hyped, and then I lose like the energy drain I had at 4 o'clock was something to witness. Like I was like, here, and then I just crashed.
That just reminds me. Because my mum always buys Red Bull and she called it boring.
What, like the Birmingham shopping centre?
To be fair, she always gets like the names and stuff wrong.
Do you know what?
Like
It's
she drinks Red Bull all the time.
my dad's been calling envelope for nearly 55 years.
I
Yeah,
love African parents so much.
but speaking of parents, that's a great segue. Speaking of parents,
And it
uh,
actually is.
it's a very amazing segue. Let's go into Miss Kathryn Hahn's show, who she plays a mother. For those who don't know, the premise basically, actually, I'll let just do the premise. Let you take the reins. What is the, without, because before we actually go into
Yeah.
this, guys, because we've been a bit over the place, there's going to be spoiler alert content. So if you've not watched the show, please tap out and come back when you've watched it, because we'll be going through the entire season of going through all the episodes, and we're going to discuss the general themes, and we're going to go into massive spoiler territory. So please, if you've not finished the show, you've only watched a couple of episodes, or you're expecting a weekly drop, this is not what it is. It's literally us like analyzing the entire season. So please tap out, but come back and listen, because our opinions are actually quite funny,
Yeah.
and you kind of want to know what we think about Miss Kathryn Hahn and her black man. So Jess, I'll let you do the premise of the show, and then yeah.
Okay, so the premise of the show is she plays a character called Claire, and we see her, and her relationship is just like basically towards the end of it. And she used to be a writer, but then she gets the opportunity to become a writer again as a columnist, advice columnist, advising the people. And as she's doing that, we get to see her life in reverse. She speaks about her mother, which is actually that's the saddest bit about it. And then just finding out about her life and everything. And I really enjoyed it overall. What did you think of it?
Actually, yeah, that's what I was even going to ask. Yeah, what were your
Mhm.
general thoughts of it, as the show in general? Like, what did you think when you finished watching it?
When I finished watching it, I actually really loved it. But when I started watching it, I was like, this is
A bit of a slow burn.
it's kind of boring.
Oh,
Yeah, it definitely is slow burn. Because I'm just like, what is going on?
no, Casey Musgrave slow burn MP3.
Yeah, so it's definitely like a slow burner, but then I feel like as she tells the story more, you kind of it's kind of like backwards in a way,
Yeah,
if that makes sense. So like at the
yeah,
beginning,
kind of get what
I
you
wasn't sure what's
mean.
going on, and then you get to the end, and then you kind of find out how the
Yes,
beginning
again,
how it makes sense.
yeah, I get what you mean. It's one of those things where like I feel like you watch it all the way once through, and then you have to watch it again to catch up on what you missed in the beginning.
Yeah,
Like, what are the clues and the signs? No, I know exactly what you mean. To be honest, I was the same with you. It was a bit of one that it took a while for me to sort of get my meat into.
hmm
In the sense of that I wasn't where you were at. I persevered. I persevered, but it was a bit, yeah, it was a little bit hard to sort of get into it in the sense of that you were sort of just waiting for everything to unravel. But do you
Mhm.
know what? I'm not gonna lie, yeah, it did trigger me. I had to stop at certain points because obviously her mum obviously
Yeah.
had cancer. So I was like, damn, my nan's death anniversary is knocking on the door of 1 year next month. So
Mhm.
I thought, okay, let me
Yeah.
take a pause. This is hitting a bit too close to home. And I was in the same sort of, I don't think I've even left that frame of mind of like, the denial thing and thinking, oh, what could you have done best? Which I found
Mhm.
interesting that they delved into because I think the thing with grief generally, I think the show did quite a good job on. And what I loved is that grief is one of those things where like it could be like 10, 11, 15, or however many years it's been since her mum died. But then you're always going to have like certain things you repress. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, my granddad died, I don't know, I was 11 and I'm 25 now. And there's certain things I still repress from that. That, like,
Mhm.
when you see certain things that remind you of it, and I'm like, damn, I'm back in that feeling I felt when I found out he passed.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting. It was actually really nice seeing her navigate grief and actually forgive herself. Because I think there's a
Mhm.
tendency sometimes that, because life does go on after someone passes,
Yeah.
this world doesn't stop spinning. And there's a tendency to sort of feel like, I'm only allowed to feel upset for as long as maybe basically till the funeral ends. And after the funeral, like you can't feel sad again because the person's buried
Yeah.
now. Or if they're cremated, the person's in ashes now.
Mhm.
So you can't do anything about it. Whereas it's just a never-ending process, and you could be
Mhm.
like tip top, but then there'll still be times where it will completely affect, especially when it's your parents, your mum.
Yeah.
And her mum was so supportive, and I was really relieved in the end that she forgave herself because she should have never held that guilt about not being there because she did the right thing, that she was there for her brother,
Mhm.
and her brother was right when he
Yeah, because the
confronted her in
doctor
the end.
did say that there was going to be. Yeah, the doctor did say there was going to be 2 weeks. So if you obviously hear that, you're not just going to assume that she's going to
Yeah, she's
pass
cool.
away
Like I
straight away.
can,
So at
yeah,
least you got
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So
Because
that was
when
really
she was,
sad that it did happen so quickly.
I was so angry, but not in an angry way. In a more like, oh my gosh, she's
Hmm.
gonna internalize this bad because it's awful. It's awful. Like it's
Because
genuinely
you're
the
just going to think to
worst
yourself,
thing
why
ever.
was I not there?
Like, what did I miss out on? What did I do? Why did I do that? Like, I could have been there for her. I could have been helping her. Like, all these things are gonna be going through in your head. And
Hmm.
I just felt so bad for her. I'm like, oh, this is no life to live. And I think what was interesting, like, genuinely, was I liked her sort of how she processed her grief in terms of the letter writing, that the column thing she was doing, and actually watching her go through the events again. Like you're actually seeing her go through like the events that she
Yeah.
was writing about, she was talking about. Yeah, I actually, that's such an interesting way of sort of tackling things. Because sometimes, when you're seeing these shows and someone's having regrets about them as a kid, you kind of don't ever watch them like you don't
Yeah.
actually watch the actual moment. They just say, oh, like when my mum died, when my mum passed away, I wasn't there, but you don't actually visually see the
Hmm.
moment because there's a
Yeah, I
level of
agree.
now I sympathy I have for her now because I actually watched young her do those things. But what did you think of her husband? Because I was surprised that she had a black man. I said, oh, not interracial, not swirl.
What was it that just made me laugh? Like when they were younger and then they obviously got together and he's talking about being in a band. I was like, it's giving block party because I don't know. Because there's not many like black lead singers that do rock music. So I thought that's quite interesting. But I think
Steven
overall,
Slash.
I kind of, I'm not too sure about his character because obviously I guess it was good that they did go to like therapy for the issues and everything. And then I guess in the end, like he just couldn't do it anymore. Like that relationship was just like in its last legs.
Do you think, honest hand on heart, do you think they could have mended their relationship?
I think they could have, but I just feel like he was just like I feel like he just clocked out a long time ago.
Yeah,
Because
do
to
you
be
know
fair,
what?
remember that she kind of not necessarily forced her way back in, but she had like nowhere else to go, and he was just like, "Oh, fine, you might as well just come back in." It's not like he really wanted her back there, so I feel like he was already clocked out.
He was done.
But obviously, like she had
Yeah,
to be there,
because
so they tried. But no, I don't
it
think.
weren't working out.
Yeah,
It won't working out at all. Yeah, I kind of get what you mean. Like, it's one of those things where, like, I feel like if they resolved, I think if they talked things out earlier, I think they would have stayed together.
Yes, because she did hide a lot of things from him until the end.
Sh Until the end, like, she hid a lot from him. Like, she hid so much from him that I felt like if they actually had a conversation at any earlier point whilst their daughter was young, I actually think it's one of the, do you know what, miscommunication is one of the most annoying tropes
Hmm.
in film, in books, in TV. Like, it's so annoying because I'm like, why are you two not talking about your problem? Like, like sometimes in rom-coms and stuff, and you're like, if you two actually just had a conversation, all this would be resolved.
Yeah, and they never did that.
Like, and they never did that. So I think it's a shame. It's always going to be. I think for her, I think she's healed and everything, but I think for her, it's always going to be like a what if thing with her. That
Yeah,
what if I did communicate with him? Because I don't know. I think it's a good lesson. I don't think people need to listen to this lesson and heed it. Stop hiding things from people. Like,
period.
stop. Like, stop. Like, period. Like, you got
Especially
to
your
stop.
husband.
Especially your husband. Like, if the thing is, like, when, because this is how people mess things up, like friendships, relationships, all sorts of relationships with their parents, like with just relationships in general, because there's a tendency of people doing the whole thing where you don't want to be vulnerable because you don't want to let anyone in. So then what happens, you isolate yourself with this problem, but then the problem now becomes worse because you're dealing with the problem by yourself, when truly, well and truly, what you could have done, it's easier said than done, is just shared it with one person, and once you've shared it, most of the load has now come off that one person, and it's come off of you because the problem shared is now a problem half. And then the other
Mhm.
person can then say, okay, do you want solution based stuff or do you want to vent? Because no one's saying the other person needs to come up with a solution to your problem. There's some things that will never have a solution to. Like this, what she was going through is not a solution based thing. She needed to
Yeah,
vent. And also, I think by not talking about things, you're not. This is what she was annoying me so much in a weird way, but I understood why, because obviously what she went through is that no one can realistically help you if they don't know the context of everything.
yeah.
Like you, like at any point, like even with her daughter, like sharing with her daughter about her, like being completely honest, because obviously at the end her daughter understood her because now she knows everything in the
Just
end.
thinking because at the beginning I did not like her daughter at all. I was thinking,
Her daughter was bad
girl.
vibes. Her daughter was bad vibes. Who No, her daughter was actually bad vibes. I didn't like her.
I was
I
like,
was
why are you
booing
so
her.
angry? And
For
and
what?
then the comment about because obviously like she was named after her grandma, and she was just like, oh, she's not really my grandmother. Which I said, how? This is not what you say to somebody that's grieving.
No, this is not
And
the
she obviously changed her
conversation you need
name
to
to
have.
Ray. But then it was
Like,
nice, like
honestly,
in the end, like how their relationship did get better.
because her mum opened up to her. I think the issue with the daughter is that she knew her mum, but she didn't, like, for example, like she's named after her grandma, but she didn't truly know her grandma because her mum didn't talk about her.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you for example, my brother, um, obviously who Jess knows, but you guys don't know in the audience, right? So my brother's first name isn't his actual name. His first name is actually my granddad's name.
Yeah.
So, but his name, Joel, is his middle name, but we just call him that because obviously when they were both alive, I ain't calling you both Mevin. That's confusing. Obviously, I didn't call him Mevin. I called him Granddad, but you know what I mean. Uh, so, but for him, with Joel, it had meaning to it because obviously, like he knew Granddad. My dad loved my his dad, and he was really close, and he always told us stories about him. So Joel always like liked the fact that he had Granddad's name. But then if you're this girl who doesn't really know her grandmother, because obviously her mum is still grieving because she never really
Yeah.
resolved truly her feelings about losing her mum in the way she did, and of course there's regret there, thinking that maybe I could have been there for um her mum and being there for when she passed. So if you have no connection with your grandma, of course you're gonna say that. It's rude, it's bratty, and it's incredibly cruel to say, but she's a teenager, and I kind of get it because I was the same. I was like that. Like,
Yeah.
why do you name me that? It's like
Yeah, that is
I
very
hate my
true.
middle name, so I hate my middle name, but I hate it with love. My grandma picked it, so I
Because
can't say no.
I'm kind of like in because I'm kind of like in the I'm in like the same boat as her as well because I was like my middle name is my auntie's middle name that passed away before I was born. But then I can't imagine
Mm.
myself ever telling my mom I don't want this middle name because I never met my auntie. Like I don't even think I won't be alive today if I said that.
You just said that, like, girl, that's not my name. No,
But
because
I
you know
do
what, like,
like I do get like as teenagers like you do like you are sometimes like really angry for no reason sometimes.
nah, like,
You
do you
do
know
say
what?
like mean things.
I get her because that was me. I never did to my mom though. Me and my mom were best. We were tight. Me and my mom were tight. I never. That was she was like my north star. She was the one person that never got tainted by me being moody. My dad got it both barrels. Oh, Richard, I'm sorry. He got it from me,
Just
boy.
firing shots at uncle.
No, uncle got. But no, my dad got battered. I was watching her, and I'm like, oh, this was me after my parents split. This was actually me. My mom was the
No.
patron saint. Because I actually understand. Because you know, your parents split and you're a teenager, yeah. Like
Mhm.
the only people whose parents split actually truly understand what that's like. Your whole world has collapsed, right? And it's the first time you're viewing your parents as human beings. If I don't know if that makes any sense, because you
Yeah.
know before your parents are just your parents, they're just mom and dad.
Yeah.
But then when they split and you're watching them like sort of configure stuff and sort of how they're mending, that's the first time that like they're sort of flawed in your eyes. Like that's the only way I
Yeah,
can
that's very
explain
true.
it. So you're now seeing them. Oh, that's not just mom and dad. Like the family home has been split. So the one consistent thing that was there has now split. She truly is now having to form new relationships with her parents that are different to the ones she had before.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that she knows her mum and she loves her mum, of course, but she don't know her mum because her mum never like opened the door, understandably so, but her mum never, you know what I mean, allowed sort of festered this because I think as parents, I think where a lot of our parents' generation went wrong, I think which I've always admired my mum for doing quite well, is that my mum always opened up to me and my brother, so it created a safe space that it made it easier for us to open up to her. Whereas in this case, like if
Yeah.
you've not created a safe space for your child to open up, like for you to open up to your child, like if you don't open up to your child, why is your child going to tell you anything? Like I don't know
Yeah, that's
you.
very true.
Like why am I going to just with you? I don't know you. Of course, you're going to tell him the big stuff, but like you know, like genuine connection. Like, and that's why I was really happy about at the end of the show. They actually had that
Yeah.
relationship. Cause I'm like, oh, look at you guys lying on the ground, looking at the sky. Like, you would have not done that 8 episodes ago.
But then do you think that she was just so angry because of the relationship overall with her parents, though? Or was it just because simply she didn't know her mom? She
I think it's both.
basically hated her.
It's both. It's both. I think it's both. It's a lot of things. I think she's a very, very troubled girl. And the thing when your parents split is seeking an experience, you kind of clock the cracks. So you're sort of sort of waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
And it probably didn't help the fact that their relationship wasn't that great to begin with. So it makes the
Yeah.
split even harder in comparison to like you can have a great relationship in the beginning and then if the divorce is just like the way their parents divorce where it's like sort of amicable,
Yeah.
then it's easier. It's not like sometimes obviously you can have a good relationship with your parent and you find out your dad or your mom cheated on the other, then you're like, oh, I hate you because look what you did. But in the way her parents split, if she had a good relationship with both of her parents, it actually should have been a lot easier because it's a
Yeah.
no fault split. So I think I think it's a mixture of things. She didn't have a good relationship with her mum to begin with, anyways. She doesn't know her mum. Like she just knows her mum's her mum, but she don't know her mum. Like her thoughts and feelings. What was she like as a kid? Like all this stuff. Her mum never let her in because your mum never let anyone in
Yeah.
after her mum died. So and I think what was nice in a way is that I think she always desired to be similar to her mum in the way her mum raised her, and then actually because of her mum passing the way she did, she ended up becoming the polar opposite of her mum. And then through, you know, doing the Colin work and everything, and actually like working with her daughter and talking with her daughter, she actually became her mum in the end. So
Yeah.
weirdly, it helps. But yeah, I think her daughter was a mixture of things. I think a lot of things were bothering her, and also she's a teenager. You're gonna be a
Yeah, that's
brat
very true.
when you're a
I
teenager.
just feel like
Like,
she didn't have any issues with her dad.
no, I think because she had a good relationship with her dad. And also,
That's
it
true.
could be that she also may have wanted. She it's also it could also be a part of probably not attention seeking consciously, but she wanted that relationship with her dad with her mum, because girls want to be close to their
Yeah.
mum. Do you know what I mean? You desire to have a close relationship because there's things you want to tell your mum that you're not going to tell your dad. Do you know what I mean? You kind of want that. So I think
Yeah, that's true.
she was desiring to have that relationship. She didn't have that relationship with her, so it makes it harder. And now her mum's split from her dad, and so that makes her more angry. She's generally angry because being a teenager sucks, and you feel like the entire world's against you, and you're all emo, and you're listening to like Lana Del Rey, like video games, and thinking the world's gonna collapse in on you. And like everything when you're a teenager, everything's exacerbated. Like
Yeah, that's very
you
true.
could be sad, but you're sad. Like you're like something now, yeah. Something can happen to you now, Jess, at 25, right? And you're like, it would be upset, but like, you know what? I'm an adult. I actually kind of have to get over it. I've got to go to work. But
Yeah.
like, like for
Like
example,
there's
if you
bigger
get
issues
heartbroken,
waiting for you.
there's big issues waiting for you. There's bills to be paid. Like, for example, if you got heartbroken, if you had your heart broken now, you have to go into work the next day. You'll do
Exactly.
and sniffle and cry at work. But you have to go to work. There's money to be paid.
That is
but,
actually so true.
but when you're 16,
Because
yeah, 16 and you're heartbroken, like you're lying down in your bed here and you're like, where's the script? The man who can't be moved. Or you're like,
that
Beyonce,
song
me,
slap.
myself, and I. Or like you're listening to like Justin Bieber, like Sorry, and
Love
like you're just
yourself.
you love yourself and you're crying, and then you're watching rom-com saying like, why is this happening to me? And then you're eating ice cream and all this. Do you know what I mean? Like you have time to mourn. So for her, everything that she's feeling now, like I promise you, if my parents split at the age now, of course it sucks, but I think I would have been okay.
Yeah. Like as an
13.
because you just have like your own life to live as
You
well.
have your life to live, man. Like it's okay, the world's still spinning. I still have to go into work tomorrow. There's a cost of living crisis here. Rishi Sunak is prime minister. What can I do? I've got to keep things moving. Whereas when you're like, when I was 13, I was like, the world's collapsing in on me. This is
It's
it.
definitely a lot harder when you're a lot younger.
Like actually, being
I
a
just feel like
teenager
you just
actually
need to just
sucks.
relax. Just need to relax a bit.
She
Yeah,
she
it
needed
does.
to she needed to
I
smoke
just
some weed or something. I don't condone it, but she needed to drink or something. She needed
yeah,
a
but then she
stiff
was
like.
drinking. Didn't she start? She did start drinking, didn't she?
Oh, yeah, she
Did she?
did. Wait, did she? I
Yeah,
can't
she did.
remember. She did.
Because
She did.
remember,
When, oh,
there's
yeah,
that
she
scene where she's
did.
on the skateboard, and I thought she was bleeding out of her eyes, but she was wearing makeup. And then, she met that girl. What was that girl? Montana. Was it Montana?
Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana.
I think that was her name. And then they were in the trampoline. I
Yeah.
think they were drinking what's meant to be gin and tonic.
Why did she drink? Actually, let's go there. Why did she drink now?
What's wrong with gin and tonic?
Is she Shirley from EastEnders?
What's
Do you know
wrong
what?
with
Yeah,
gin and tonic?
I'll never forget. Yeah, I used to watch. This is such a side note. I was watching EastEnders. You know, they keep saying, "Can I have a G&T?" And I remember when I first had it. Oh, I actually
What did you
cried.
have? Like, what kind
I
of
had a
gin did you have
G&T.
first of all?
I don't know, Jess. I was stupid. I didn't know what alcohol was. I just asked for a G&T and they gave me a G&T and it tasted disgusting.
They probably didn't
I
like
think
get the blend right. Because
no,
GNT
no, no,
will hit
no,
you like a ton of bricks if it's mixed properly. Lord Jesus.
no. That's the way my preferred drink of choice is. Guys, let me give you the tea, the real tea, right? Pink gin lemonade, banger. Unicorn gin lemonade, banger. The real one, yeah. Shout out to Rachel actually who bought it. The Gordon's lemon gin, right? The Sicilian lemon gin with lemonade. I got drunk many a time with that one.
Maybe I'm missing out because I've only just had the original gin.
Oh no no
with
no
like
no!
tonic or
Next
with
time we go
juice.
out, yeah, the Gordon's lemon gin. Right, I need to shout like the daughter needs to. She needs to hit me up because I would have given her like top gin. Like I would have taken her to. They don't have a Weatherspoons in America. I would have taken her to a bar.
How
They're
you
taking
saying it? She can't even get into Weatherspoons first and buy a drink at Weatherspoons because she's a teenager.
her. I would have gone to Kmart. I would have gone to any like bodega, and I would have gotten a lemon gin, and I would have given her lemon gin and lemonade. Let's sit and talk about it, girl. Oh, I would have got an Echo Falls. I would have ordered Echo Falls off Amazon. And drinks around like, let's talk about this girlfriend. Like,
Yeah,
take
they
take
did
it like
definitely need to like. She did need somebody to speak to, but then it's just a shame that it would have been good to see her dad speaking to her more about. But then, to be fair, he didn't know anything either. So
he ain't
maybe
know nothing.
alcohol was the only friend that she had.
Do you know what? I've been there, been there, been there, been there. That lockdown, wow.
Your lockdown was a mess. It made people just like drink. Like it was so funny. I went to Sainsbury's and all the drinks were like gone except for Corona.
No, if I tell you how many tequila and KA black grapes I drank, oh, it was
I'm
actually
trying to think
so
because at the
bad.
start of the lockdown it wasn't too bad, and then I think it was just that which lockdown was it? That grey lockdown, the end of the year one.
The December Christmas one into New
Yes,
Year.
yes.
Do you know that lot? Do you know that lockdown? The only good thing is I met my boyfriend on there.
I genuinely think
The
that
only
my
good
life was
thing.
falling apart at that time. That's what made it worse. It was
That's it.
so
Like,
bad.
felt like I was working because obviously I'm a key worker, so I was working, going into work. The only highlight I've met my boyfriend. I cannot tell you one good thing that happens in that
To be fair,
lockdown.
was that not when was that when Clubhouse like started to become so all we did was just like sit on Clubhouse till like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Do you know how sad that sounds?
It's the fact that that was actually normal back then.
Do you know what we were doing? I was drinking tequila, like our mutual friend, me and Jess's mutual friends, whose wedding I'm going to soon. She got me Mexican tequila, right, and I still had it from. She got it
Right
for my.
in the
She got it
drink
for my
lockdown.
birthday.
All
No,
right.
it was remember my lockdown happened just before after my birthday.
Oh yeah.
I still had it, and I drank that with black grape. Strange. Do you know, I actually understand that, don't you know? Because when depression hits, you know, the way the alcohol was like, it got me through. It got, it actually got me through because I was actually like the worst lockdown was the first one because me and like our best friend, like me and Jess's best babe, we were stuck in our uni town. We couldn't go home. The way like I feel like I actually said to her at the end of it, we actually could get married and we'll probably be okay because we survived it.
You know those students in during lockdown are the real MVPs because I couldn't have done it. I literally
But the,
graduated just before.
no, oh, do you know what it was? Yeah, I think the only way I can make myself feel better was saying that I graduated I did my undergraduate, so I had that. But no, it didn't make me feel better. No, shout out to everybody who got the degrees in lockdown. That was actually hell. Like that actually, I was actually going to do my PhD like a year after that, and that completely turned me off from doing it ever again. I am never, ever, 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 ever doing it ever. I left that behind, man.
I know.
We
I
went on
could
such a
definitely not
massive segue.
imagine.
I hope that entertained
I was
everyone.
about to say. I don't know how. Yeah, we did. Okay, so we got. Let's
Okay,
rewind.
let's rewind. Let's go into what we didn't like. We sort of touched on it in terms of the slow burn, but other than it being a slow burn, what did you not like that you feel like could have been improved on?
I don't like. I guess in a way it was good because she was basing it off the letters that she got. But I was kind of hoping it would have been a bit more linear because, like, at the start it was just like really confusing. Because
Hmm.
it's like 1 minute we at her mom's funeral, the next minute we're meeting her when she meets her current husband, then we're meeting her ex-husband, then we're going to her mom's telling them that she's got cancer. I don't know. I like because it was good, but it can get kind of confusing in a way in that thing. I'm
Hmm.
not sure if you felt the same, but that was kind of one of the things I slightly didn't like
No,
about it.
it's you're right. You're right because that sort of yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think that it being linear, I think it would have helped if it was a bit linear. It is a little bit confusing. Um, it jumping from present to that to that to that. Yeah, I get
Mhm.
what you mean. The last few episodes it got less confusing, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it not being linear was sort of confusing. I think it took maybe halfway into the show for me to get used to it. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
lie. I think the only thing I didn't like, okay, I didn't like is a strong word. The only thing I think I wished the ex-husband was involved more.
Yeah, I'm just confused, like, because they were speaking about him, and then they'd only speak about him when he was younger, and then
Yeah, like I wished
yeah,
we got to know more about him. I felt like he was a bit part role. He was like a foil for her, for Claire
yeah,
and her daughter. He wasn't a fully realized person. I didn't feel like he was his own thing. That's the only thing I wish they could have improved on because otherwise it's a 7.5, 8 out of 10 show. I'd recommend anyone to watch
mm.
it, definitely. Kathryn Hahn definitely should try and they should try and push for her to for award season for sure. She did very well, but I just wish the relationship with her husband was more fully fleshed out because I know why they split and we know why and all this stuff, but I never got we never got a resolution between the two of them.
Yeah. I thought we could have found out a bit more about them as well, because I know that they obviously speak about how she got pregnant at first, but then like, where was the between there and when the baby's
And what
born
they are
and where
now,
they are
yeah,
now? Like,
now. Like I know what they're like now. I know what they're like when they were younger. But what about the entire period when you're raising your daughter? What
yeah,
happens?
I
Why
feel
are
like that
you?
we definitely needed that.
We could have. That would have taken from the 7 to a 10.
Hmm.
That would have taken
Definitely.
up 3. It stays a 7 because I haven't got that. He's a good-looking man as well. I'm not gonna lie. I was staring at him the whole time.
He actually is. You know
I was
what?
like, ooh.
I'm so sorry. You know when
Oh, I
they were
thought you were
having
gonna say it's
sex
gonna
in
make me
the
scream.
restaurant,
Oh
and you can just see, I
no.
was just looking at his bum because I just thought he must be Ghanaian. No offense to the Ghanaian brothers, but his his bum was massive. I'm so sorry.